Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're so glad you're here at all of our campuses at 211, at Oconee. If you're here with me at 316 in here or the South, or if you are online, thanks for being here. In fact, look at the person that you're sitting next to. If you know them, live in the same house. If don't, just avoid them. But if you know them, I'm joking, a little COVID joke there. If you look at the person you came in with and say, God is for me, do it right quick. And let me tell you why. Here's the other part, because you got an extra hour of sleep last night. Do that right now. Because I got an extra hour of sleep last night. We're hopping in only Jesus week something. I don't know. I want you to go to John chapter 15. John 15, if you got your words. And let me begin with somewhat of stating the obvious. And by stating the obvious, what I mean is this is not a, man, I've never thought of that. This is just something that we assume but never consider. Let me begin by giving you just a life principle. And by life principle, I mean something we all know. And this isn't in your notes, and this isn't rocket science. This is pretty straightforward, but I think it'll get us going. And I want you to think about this. Again, not in your notes. This isn't a biblical truth, even though I do think Scripture affirms and will back me up in this. But there's a simple reality we never think of until it doesn't happen. It's a pretty straightforward fact, and here's the reality. Life principle. Things just don't appear or happen. Everything comes from a source. Just think about that for a second. Stuff just doesn't happen or appear. I know Halloween was last night, but things just don't, oh man, I didn't see that. No. All right, things just don't happen or appear. Everything comes from a source. Now think about it. When you turn on a light switch at your house, the lights come on, but you never consider the source of the light. You just know when you turn that light switch on, it's coming on. But you know, because you're an educated people, Oconee 211 here with me 316, that electricity is the source of that light, and that electricity comes from somewhere. Name it Jackson EMC or Georgia Power if you live in this area. There's a source of it. Let's say you turn on a faucet at your house this morning when you took a shower, when you washed your hands, brushed your teeth, when you flushed the commode, flushed the toilet. And that the toilet, water filled back up, the faucet came down, the shower head. You just assume that water was coming. You don't think anything about it, but that water has a source. And the only time you think about the source is when that water doesn't come on. The only time you think about that source is when that electricity, maybe some of you during the storm last week lost it, doesn't come on. But let me push a little bit here. Love just doesn't appear or happen. It has a source. Forgiveness just doesn't appear or happen. It has a source. Patience just doesn't appear or happen. Church, it has a source. But hold on, let me push a little bit here. Anger doesn't just appear or happen because of the situation you're in. It comes from a source. Bitterness just doesn't appear or happen just because of the moment that you're in. No. It's got a source. Rage, unforgiveness. All of these things have a source. What Paul says is the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control. What he says the source of those things is the Spirit. I want you to see Jesus' words on this idea of everything has a source. I just want you to see Jesus' words. It's a very vivid, succinct statement, and I want us to see it this morning as we hop in. John chapter 15, Jesus' words, and here's what he says. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Now pause. The vine was a familiar symbol in the Old Testament. All through Hebrew scriptures, the vine was referred to again and again, and often a picture or a metaphor for the people of Israel, the original audience. This was an agricultural people. These were farmers. And just in the previous week, if you go back a few chapters, Jesus had taught about the parable of the vineyards, again, using a metaphor of the vine and vineyards to make a kingdom point. And a metaphor that we commonly use in our culture because everybody just understands is sports. So even if you don't play sports, if you don't know sports, a metaphor, we always use sports metaphors. We'll call that person, he's the MVP. Everybody knows what you're talking about. They're the quarterback of the team. We're in the fourth quarter. Well, even if you don't play sports or know it, you know it's a sports metaphor. It's applying to life. Jesus did the same thing with farming and agriculture. Everybody go, oh, okay. I know what he's talking about. So Jesus says, I'm the vine and you're the branches. And so everybody cleared in, everybody clued in, because even if you weren't a farmer, you understood agriculture in this culture. And so here's what he says. Verse 2. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Pause for a second. That's a whole message in and of itself. But I want you to keep going because I want you to see something here. Already you are clean because of the word that I've spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I'm the vine. This is Jesus saying that. You're the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Grapevines everywhere in Israel. On the temple stairs, there was this huge golden grapevine representing their mind as Israel as the vine. So their blessings, their source is their heritage and where they're from, Israel. Jesus comes on the scene and goes, no, I'm the vine. Not your heritage, not where you were born, but me. He was right-sizing. I'm the vine. I'm the source. What you bear in your life comes from me. Of the many pictures of relationships between God and his people throughout the Gospel of John, I'm the good shepherd and you're the sheep. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the bread of life. I'm the light of the world. When Jesus says, I am the vine and you are the branches, it's the most vivid picture of this idea of complete and utter dependence. Now, I'm not a farmer. Any of you have a farmer raised on a farm? Oconee 211, okay, all right, you know better than me. I was raised on a farm, didn't pay a lot of attention, but I was raised on a farm. But I'm not a farmer, I'm not a botanist, so I don't know plants that well, I'll just own it. I'm not fluent in the language of agriculture. But what I do know, really simple, is a branch needs a vine to have life. If a branch bears fruit, it's because it's connected to the vine. Listen to me. A branch without a vine is a stick. I know, it was rocket science. You're like, man, I never knew that, Jason. Write that down. A branch without a vine is a stick. A branch without a vine is a twig. There's no life to it. A branch without a vine is a stick. And just like you, after the storm yesterday, I walked through my house throwing away old sticks, not connected to it. Jesus says it like this in another way, Matthew chapter 7. He's trying to push this theme home. You'll recognize them, my followers, by their fruit. So Jesus asked the same thing, Matthew 7. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. Pretty straightforward. Healthy tree, good fruit. Diseased tree, bad fruit. A healthy tree can't bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruits. Jesus would say, they will know you, my followers, my people, not by what you say, but what your life continually and repeatedly bears, which is fruit. If you're taking notes, if you get your app, let me give you a thought. If you're at home, here with me, Oconee 211, here's what I want you to write down. Every action, every emotion, every disposition, and every decision we make in life has some source. We don't make snap decisions as much as we think we do. Every action, every emotion, every disposition, every decision we make in life comes from some type of source. For believers in Jesus, what he is saying is, I want to be that source. I am that source. That's what he's teaching here. What the gospel of Jesus invites us to do is to remain and to rest and to stay repeatedly and continually in that idea of the vine and the branch, because then things will bear true in our life. Oswald Sanders, my favorite statement that I've used for 8 or 10 years in my own walk with God, Oswald Sanders, in his book, Enjoying the Intimacy with the Almighty, says this one statement. When he said it years ago, it caught me, and I've never moved past it. Here's what he says at the beginning of his whole book. In this moment, and I'm saying this to you right now, Oconee 211, right here with me at home. In this moment, you are as close to God as you choose to be. Right now. In this very moment, you're as close to God as you choose to be. So the word abide, which is repeated time and time again, in John chapter 15. It's a word we don't use much, but we get the principle. If you're taking notes, abide means to remain or to stay. To remain or to stay, to continue to exist. To continue to exist, to last, to persist, to find my rest over and over again. Now, think about your home, all of your physical homes. Think about your home for a second. I've been living at my house going on 10 years. When I came here as pastor, about 6 months after that, we bought a house in Winder. My address is 18 None of Your Business Lane, okay? I love you and I trust you, but not that much. 18 None of Your Business, and all the people out there in the internet world. And 18 None of Your Business Lane. That is my address, but my address doesn't mean that's where I abide. Some of you are in the rental property game, and you own different addresses, but you don't live there. Somebody else lives there. Hello. You own an address, but you don't live there. Somebody else abides in your house. My house is where I abide because I begin my day every day there, and I end my day every day there. How do you know it's your house? Because you keep coming back to it over and over again. It's really simple. I bet all of you that have a home, the reason it's your home is not just because it's your address, but it's your home because you repeatedly and continually, you leave from there and you come back there. It's your place that you remain and you stay, and it's a choice you make. Even if I were to go on a long trip, I will leave from my house because it's where I lodge. It's where my stuff is. It's where my family is. I will come back to there after a trip. No matter what my day holds, no matter what's going on, no matter what pressures, no matter what joys, it's my house. It's where I abide because I leave from there and I go from there. What Jesus is saying is abide in me. He's talking about the will, the choices, and the decisions we repeatedly make over and over again. It's deciding to do the things which expose ourselves to Him and keep ourselves in contact with Him. That's the idea of abiding. So get this. I don't know where you're at in your faith journey, but belonging to Jesus, and I put this in your notes, is a one-time decision. It's a moment of salvation. And maybe it's us wording, and maybe it's a prayer that we pray. Maybe it was an aisle that we walked. Maybe it was a hand that we raised. Maybe it was in our bedroom. Maybe it was in a moment of crisis with our friends. I don't know, but there was a time when we said yes to Jesus, a one-time decision. When that happens, listen to me, campuses, when that happens, you receive the power to change in a moment. You receive the power to change, but this is it right here. Abiding in Jesus, which He's calling us to do, is a continual act of the will. It's a daily decision, a choice over and over again. If this is the power to change, when you begin to abide in Jesus, here it is, look at me, it's when you will begin to experience the power of change. Experience the power of change. Jesus says, I'm not going anywhere. He says right there in John 15:4, I'm staying with you. I'm remaining with you. I'm abiding with you. I'm the vine, I'm the source, you're the branch. Fruit bearing, here's what that means. Jesus says the result of you resting in me is fruit bearing, and fruit bearing is inevitable with abiding. The quality and the quantity of fruit will change. Listen. But if you are in the vine, there will continually be fruit in your life. Now, everybody listening on our campus is at home, wherever you're at. Here's what I want you to think about. When the Bible talks about fruit, again, it's using an agricultural metaphor. Everybody would understand. But here's what I want you to know. The fruit is what people experience of you. The fruit in your life is what, so Jason, what's people's experience of Jason? That's the fruit that he bears. What do people, when they think of your name, the people that live with you, what do they continually and repeatedly experience of you? Let me ask that again. This is it. The fruit is what people experience of you. No, that's my personality. No, the Bible calls that the fruit of your life. So what people continually experience of you is fruit. And what Jesus says is where you stay, where you remain, where you abide over and over again will be the source of your fruit. Jesus was using a metaphor. So, Just as Jesus used a farming illustration, I'm going to use a little Southern colloquialism to make this point. I'm going to use a little Southern, if you will, illustration, a metaphor that I want to say is the exact same thing. In fact, last year we did a series on emotional health in August and September of 2019. Emotional health called Hello, My Name is Hope. I don't know if you were here, if you remember, but it was all about emotional health. It was incredibly timely considering 2020, emotional health has been a dumpster fire for most people, okay? Everybody's emotional health's in the tank. Everybody's emotional health's in the tank because of the trauma of this crazy year, or at least what we think is and what we've experienced. And in that series, I made a statement, and you've been wondering this whole time what's behind me here. But in that series, I made a statement. I knew it was a sticky statement. With many of you have repeated this statement to me again and again. I've learned that what sticks, you guys repeat to me. Sometimes I'll think something's great, y'all never say anything. I'm like, well, that was great, but they don't say anything. And then there's other times I'm like, that was just something I said. And they're like, that's the greatest thing. It's the way the Holy Spirit works, not Jason. You know, the way the Holy Spirit works. But I made a statement that's the exact same thing as I'm the vine and you're the branches. And here was the statement I made in that emotional health series. I never really explained it. And I made a note going into this Jesus series that I wanted to come back and just sit down on it for a minute and show you the power of this principle because it's happening in your life right now. Right now in your life, you are bearing fruit. And it really depends on the source, on the fruit that you're bearing. So I want to say that to you, front to the back. Oconee 2:11. Right now, your life is bearing fruit. People's experience of you is the fruit that you bear. So just as Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches, I said a statement I want to come back to, and here it was. Whatever is down in the well comes up in the bucket. I know you all remember it because you never forget anything I say. Joking. What's down in the well comes up in the bucket. There's a source. You don't think about the vine, you just eat the fruit. You don't think about the well, you just drink the water. But there's a source for everything. Your fruit, your repeated and continual actions, that's where you abide, where you go to over and over again. And whatever is down in this well, listen, church, comes up in the bucket. You may not see what's down in the well, but people experience the water that's down in the well. You may never think of the vine, but people eat the fruit and people experience the fruit. What do people experience of you? That's all Jesus is saying, as plain as he can be. I'm the vine, you're the branch. You abide in me, you'll bear much fruit. But you're bearing fruit wherever you abide. So let me give you a couple of examples, because here's what I want to argue for a moment. Contend, challenge, encourage you with. Right now in your life, you are bearing fruit, and it depends on where you're abiding in. And there are different things that we abide and we rest in, and we don't even know it, but it's the reason that we bear so much fruit in our life, whether it's good or bad. What do you mean? For some of us, what we repeatedly and continually come back to, which leads to the fruit that we bear right here, is our generational dysfunction in our past. That's where you rest. That's what's down in the bucket. What do you mean? The saying is more is caught than taught. No matter how old you are, the saying is more is caught and taught. That is no more true than in family. None of us are raised in perfect homes, and for free, none of us right now are leading perfect homes. But what we see played out time and time again, we do not even realize how much we begin to emulate that in our life. Addictions, anger, manipulation, codependency, comparison, divorce, issues, insecurities. In our home, we were reminded of how inadequate we were again and again. We never felt like we were enough. We never felt like we were man enough. And that's what we saw played out over and over again. Anger, manipulation, hollow religion, which means there was this facade. Some of us grew up in homes where we went on Sunday and our house was a disaster on Monday. You know what I'm talking about? And over we went there. And that's what we saw played out time and time again. And what you don't even realize is what's down in the bucket in your life is what you experienced of your home and your past. It's the source. And so you keep coming back to, because of hurt or because of patterns that were formed, you keep coming back. You abide and you rest in what you've seen. And some of you right now, some of you men in this room, you don't even realize it. Your father's words, you're a 50-year-old man, and your father's words were powerful, and you can't get past them, and you come back to that thought over and over again. So patterns form, and we begin to abide there. Now, we say it in the South. Tell me right here. We say it in the South. Here's how we say it. Well, I come by it honest. You said it. Well, I come by it honest. What does that mean? There's a source. I saw it played out over and over again. Pete Scazzaro, who writes a lot on emotional health, he uses these words. He says, for many Christians, I love this line. He goes, Jesus may very well be in your heart, but grandpa's in your bones. And what he's saying is there's a generational heritage and dysfunction you don't even realize you emulate over and over again. And we do it in the South because some reason there's a rule that we can't say anything about our family that wasn't nice. Well, so we idolize our family. And many of you are playing it out over and over again. Some of us, what is down in the well, that for years and years and years keeps coming up in the bucket where you abide and you rest as you saw generational patterns, you saw dysfunction, you saw addictions, you saw anger, you saw hurt, you never felt inadequate. And where you rest, where you go to again and again in your mind is that place. And that bears the fruit in your life. Why do you snap just like that? Why do you always feel inadequate? Why do you feel like you're never enough? You are repeating the pattern. You have been abiding over and over again. It is true that our upbringing will have significant influence over who we are and the choices we make. But when we become a follower of Christ, that bitter and poisonous vine is ripped out and is replaced with the true vine. Is replaced with the true vine. So what Jesus is saying is you've had a source. You've abided and rested in things. I want to be that source where you continually and repeatedly come back to. Church, what is the source of the fruit in your life? What is down in that well will come up in the bucket. For others of us, let me tell you where you're abiding and you're resting in right now, and it's showing up in your life. Holy Spirit's with us in this moment. Some of you at Oconee and Tulane, let me tell you where you're resting and you're abiding. You don't even know it, but you're coming back over and over again to this right here, your shame. Guilt says I did something bad. Shame says I am bad. For some of us, the place our minds go to again and again and again is a place of shame. Shame is personal, and it's a heavy load we carry. Shame is regret on steroids, and it's what's down in the bucket. It's the source we come back to again and again. Something that we did, a season that we lived, something that we said, something that's going on in our life right now that we don't anybody know about. Something that's happened or has been done to us has caused a source of shame. And we don't even realize it, but we perpetually keep going back to. Shame is often a secret sin or a personal struggle, but we abide in it in the dark. We come back to it over and over again. What shame does is isolate you. What shame does is never let you really know anybody or never let yourself be really known. Shame makes us believe that what other people see of us is how we feel about ourselves because of that shame. Let me say it again. Some of you right now, shame is what is down in that bucket. It's the source. You come back to it over and over again. What's been done to you, a season that you had, some secret thing you've never confessed, somebody that's hurt you, it's personal stuff, and we feel the shame. And so over and over, where our mind rests and where we remain in our life is this point of shame. Is this point of shame and this point of hurt. And we do it. And so what begins to bear in our life is the fruit of shame, which is distanced, which is we never feel like we can be loved. We never feel like we can love. We never feel like we're enough. And so we have this in our gut. We have this in our soul. The source, the vine that you are resting in, that you are abiding in is that sense of shame. Is that sense of shame. You understand the principle of Jesus was the greatest teacher because he didn't teach anything hard. He just was really straight with you. I never heard that. No, you know that principle. He's just saying, I want to be that source. I want to be that source. If you feel unlovable, if you feel unsure about Jesus and how he'll respond to you, please hear this. Jesus welcomes you. That's why he says, I'm making my choice to abide in you. I'm letting you abide in me. He is saying, I want to be that place that you rest, that you come back to, that you remain over and over again. I want to be that source. Listen to me, church. For some of us, what's down in this well is a place of shame and a place of hurt. And so what comes up in the bucket is, for us, much of our life is stained by the cloud of shame and the cloud of and the cloud of if anybody knew and I can't and I'll never be because of these things. And what Jesus is saying is that's where you rest, but where I want you to rest is with me. Come back again and again. For some of us, you can tell you where we rest. Let me give you American 2020, our image-based culture. We rest and we abide in our performance. Where you come back to over and over again is how successful you are, how much money you have in the bank, how much you've accomplished, how many of the goals that you've set that you've hit, how great your kids are. This is a whole different message for a whole different time, but one of the words that's a word of idolatry in our culture is potential. And so for many of us, we believe somehow, listen to me right here, I'm about to preach for a second, a whole different sermon. It's been a tough year. But can I say this to some of you parents who are sitting at home right now in the season of distancing? Listen to me. Some of your problems is you don't realize what's down in that bucket is that you are what you've accomplished, that you are what people think of you, that you are. So the drug of our day, when performance is down in that well, when performance is the vine that you come back to, I come back to it over and over again. How much I do, how much I accomplish, how good all this stuff, and what people think of me. If that is the reality, let me tell you what comes up in the bucket. You stay perpetually busy for no other reason but because you think it shows how accepted, how worthy, and you live in this cycle of busyness. You live in this cycle. And so for some of us as parents, that word potential, we think everything my kid can be involved in as much as he can, that will help my kid reach his full potential. What? But that's parenting in the 21st century. You realize that? You believe as busy as you can keep your kid, that means he or she will reach their full potential. And the reality is because you are somebody who performs and you're living that out with your kids. Somebody's preaching. And so what's in that well is performance. Look at me. Look how great. And our society just perpetually eats it up, and that's the source. And you're busy, and you're busy, and you're busy, but you're not really accomplishing anything. And in Cain, really, this season's made you crazy because you're not able to perform as much because everybody's distance, there's not as much things happening, and so you're mad. And this image thing, church, what is down in that well comes up in the bucket. What the fruit of your life is where you abide and where you stay. And many of us come back to this point of performance, and look at me, look how great I am, look at my family, look how much we've accomplished, and over and over, this perpetual cycle. And for others of us in this cycle, fear is what's down in that bucket, man. We said it last week, fear's a liar. The myth of fear, listen to me, and we've talked about it often because it's the common emotion everybody's felt in this season, and Lord knows we're 2 days before election, so it's all hyped up. That was last week. Go back and listen. Listen. Here's the lie of fear. I want you to catch it right here. The lie of fear is that fear is circumstantial and environmental. What does that mean? That fear is about what's going on around you. Now, on some level, it's true because if you drive down the road on a spooky night, you feel a little bit of fear. You get test results back and it says cancer, you get a little bit of fear. Crazy virus, surging again. Even if it's, you get a little bit of fear because you can't control it. What this pandemic did was not make us all fearful. It exposed the fear that was already all in us. Feeling fear is natural. But when we perpetually live in a cycle of fear, which many of us do, many of us are in a cycle of fear, that's what's down in the bucket. So what comes up in the well is we're always trying to control. We're always trying to mitigate and isolate. We're always trying to kind of keep fear at bay by controlling everything. and controlling everybody and controlling every outcome. And some of you are an emotional disaster in this season. Some of you at home right now, I love you, but you're an emotional disaster in the season because you're ate up with fear. Not because the virus is scary, but because there's fear deep down in you, and you live in this perpetual cycle where you come back to fear and how things are going to turn out, and what if this happens, and what if this happens. So the fruit in your life that you bear is you're controlling, is you're not happy, is you're angry, is you're on edge, is that anxiety, is that all this fruit you bear. It's because the source of your life is a place of fear. Jesus wasn't being a rocket scientist here. Jesus wasn't going, I'm going to tell you something you've never learned. No, Jesus was saying the way life works is everything has a source. Just like, hey, you see that vine right there? Yeah, we see that vine. That vine has fruit. That's right. Jesus is saying, I want to be that vine and you are the fruit. What is down in the well comes up in the bucket. It's the most straightforward principle. Right now, you are bearing fruit in your life. Oconee 2:11, you are bearing fruit in your life. The question is and here's the thing, what's that fruit? No matter how much, here's the thing about the well, listen to me. No matter how hot it is, no matter how cold it is, no matter the storm, it doesn't matter what's going on outside the well, going on around or outside the well, because the power is what's down there. Not the circumstances, not the environment. What's down in the well comes up in the bucket. What's in your well? That's what Jesus is saying. Where do you rest? Where do you abide? I love what Eugene Peterson says. He repeats in his paraphrase called The Message. He uses that John 15 passage. Here's what he says. Live in me, says Jesus. Make your home in me, just as I do in you. In the same way that a branch can't bear grapes by itself, but only by being joined to the vine, you can't bear fruit unless you are joined with me. That's what Jesus said. Can I give you a real piece of practical advice as we close? Abide, to rest. Go back to the idea of the house. See, what I want some of you to hear right now, some of you in this room, some of you at Oconee and 211, you have got a brand new address. Your problem is you keep going to an old broke down house. You have a brand new address in Christ Jesus, but you keep abiding in an old broke down house. That's where you're dwelling. What Jesus is saying is the power that you've received, now let that power in me remain, abide. Where do you come back to? So if I can put this in practice in this crazy season, just maybe a reminder, maybe even this week to challenge you with what does it mean to abide? Just like in your home, the reason you know it's your home, it's where you lodge, it's where you take root, it's where you live, it's your residence. It's because you begin and end the day there. Think about it like this. Here would be my challenge. The principle of abiding simply means this: to begin and end the day in the same place, connecting with Jesus. It's a simple principle that we're putting in action. It's a simple principle. So for me, the first 20 to 30 minutes of my day, it may be 10 to 15 for you, it may be 30, but there's just a point before I see anybody, before I experience anything, I spend time with Jesus. I've been reading through the Gospels. All I've been doing in this pandemic is reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John over and over and over again, because I want to be dialed into the words of Jesus when all the words going around me are crazy. And I do that not because I'm your pastor. I don't write sermons in that time. I do that because I'm a child of God and I will have fruit in my life and I want to remain in that source. So I begin my day, but here's what I've learned in this past season. There's a power in ending my day there as well. So at the end of the day, after my kids have gone to bed, after I've watched the game on TV, after I've followed a little bit of the news, God help me, right? After I've turned off Netflix, some of you like, my pastor watches Netflix, so do you. You're a worse sinner than me, okay? Just The Office every once in a while, but that's neither here nor there, okay? Every once in a while. But listen, I'm a person like you. This isn't because I'm like, I was pastor and so this is how, no. I'm a person who bears fruit, so I end my day as well, whether it be praying with my wife, whether it be spending the last 10 or 15 minutes just as I lay in my bed, putting my heart and putting my mind back towards Jesus. I've played that out in this season. Why? Because, oh man, there's a ton of pressure, there's a ton of emotion, there's a ton of hurt, there's a ton of fear, there's a ton of worry that I could rest in. But I'm learning to rest. Here'll be my challenge. Begin and end. That's it. Just like you leave your home and you come back to your home, here's my challenge, church. Some of you grew up and the words was quiet time. That's how you started your day. Just a few minutes. It's great. I'm challenging you, put the principle of abiding in the same place, the beginning in there. I'm not saying an hour here and an hour there. I'm saying start by setting your mind and end by setting your mind. That's what's called abiding. You remain. Some of you dudes, man, I don't read, Pastor. You put a verse, right? Just read the first Gospel of John, a chapter. It's the power of no matter what's going on, putting your mind. Pray with your wife, pray on your own. I journal, I write. Just something that brings you back to that source, because you're going to experience all kind of things. And what you don't realize is your mind is always resting in something. Now here's the power of that. And I made this as practical as I could for you today. If you came in, you got a card. I want everybody to hold it up right quick. Hold it up. And this is going home with you. And I don't have pens because of all the, don't touch this, don't touch that, whatever. Okay, so I miss those pens. They're coming back at some point. But hold on, okay? Y'all would all do this. That's how I know my message was ending. Click the pen, I just miss it. So I just keep going now. You're bad, okay? But here's what I want to end. 2:11, okay, listen to me. Hold it up. Everybody hold it up. This is the principle of abiding. This is it. That when I rest, put it down, remain, come, and go. Continually, over and over again. That's where I abide. And when I begin to do that, here's what happens. People begin to experience more of Jesus than they do the fear in me. See, there's something in your well. When I come back to the source that is Jesus, what begins to happen is people are experiencing more of Jesus than they are. For some of us, we knew that because what else they could be experiencing is our shame. And when I abide and I choose to connect over and over, and where I remain, where I begin, and where I end, that when I choose it, people are experiencing more of Jesus than shame. Some of you, the power of abiding is people will begin to experience, you will begin to experience the fruit, not of your past, but of Jesus. Some of you, when you begin to abide and learn this principle, people will experience more of Jesus than they do your performance, your image. You're trying to control your image. For some of you this week, and this one's for free, when you abide, it's Jesus even over election results. What I'm saying in this season is the power of abiding is what's your source. The fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control. Before Paul ever said it, Jesus' invitation was all of these other things are in your life. Shame, your past, your performance, your busyness, your hurt, your fear. What Jesus is saying is rest in me and watch how that takes second chair. Watch how that's not what people... So when you get home, I just want you to put this somewhere. Maybe it's on your refrigerator, maybe it's in your car. Gentlemen, I don't know where it's at. Ladies, put this to remind you that's what we rested in. Everything else becomes second. At our campuses, and here with me at 316, I want to invite you to pray. As we pray, will everybody stand? 211, Oconee, 316, just stand. Campus pastors, you can take it now. I am the vine, you are the branch. With your head bowed and eyes closed, I want you to say this with me. What is down in the well comes up in the bucket on the count of three. You know it. Little southern colloquialism to kind of take that. I'm the vine, you're the branches. I want you to say it with me. On the count of three, what's down in the well comes up in the bucket. 1, 2, 3. What is down in the well comes up in the bucket.